Deion Sanders made it official. Shedeur is ready. The Hall of Famer didn't dance around the subject. He endorsed his son as an NFL starter, loud and clear. And in doing so, he didn't just back Shedeur, he threw down a challenge to Cleveland's coaching staff. One that's now echoing across every sports media cycle and front office in the league.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This public backing didn't come out of nowhere. Deion's endorsement followed weeks of speculation, conflicting reports, and growing unrest about why Shedeur Sanders, one of the most talked about prospects in football, is stuck at third string. For Deion, the message is simple. The Browns are wasting time. For Cleveland, it's another fire to put out. Kevin Stefanski's response? Silence. Or worse, vagueness. As the head coach, he's had every opportunity to explain the plan for Sanders, to offer clarity, to at least acknowledge the tension. Instead, he's doubled down on safe talking points and generic platitudes. While Deion speaks directly, Stefanski hides behind phrases like development and he's learning. But the more he deflects, the more it confirms what many already suspect. Stefanski has no intention of playing Shedeur anytime soon. The disconnect is glaring. On one hand, Shedeur Sanders is a poised, confident quarterback who has declared himself ready to lead. He has a growing fan base, national attention, and now the full public backing of one of the most influential figures in football. On the other hand, he's a non-factor on the Browns' depth chart, stuck behind veterans with limited upside, all while the organization pretends like there's no controversy. This isn't about entitlement. It's about momentum, and Cleveland is killing it. Shedeur isn't just another rookie trying to earn his stripes. He's a player who has already proven he can handle pressure, media scrutiny, and the expectations of a massive platform. His poise has been steady, his work ethic unquestioned. But the Browns, rather than harnessing that energy, have chosen to suppress it. And now, with Deion entering the conversation publicly, the Browns are boxed in. Play Shedeur, and it looks like they cave to pressure. Keep him benched, and they risk alienating both fans and one of the most talked about young quarterbacks in the league. The tension is no longer behind the scenes. It's playing out in headlines on national TV and in every question Stefanski can't or won't answer. The endorsement from Deion only crystallized what's been bubbling under the surface for weeks. The Browns aren't managing this situation, they're fumbling it. And if they're not careful, they won't just lose a quarterback. They'll lose control of a narrative that's already spinning away from them. Here's where things stand. Shedeur Sanders says he's ready. Kevin Stefanski says a lot of words that don't actually mean anything. And the Cleveland Browns are once again fumbling a quarterback situation in broad daylight. This isn't about growing pains or waiting your turn. It's about a young quarterback with talent, confidence, and pedigree being left to rot on the bench while a past-his-prime veteran continues to start and struggle. Stefanski has made it crystal clear, without ever saying it outright. Shedeur Sanders is not part of the Browns' current plan, at least not on the field. And every time a reporter brings it up, Stefanski deflects with the same stale lines. He's developing, making progress, and learning. Learning what exactly? How to stay quiet while the guy ahead of you throws checkdowns into double coverage. Because Joe Flacco, for all his experience, is not the future. The Browns know that. The fans know that. The league knows that. But still, Stefanski keeps rolling him out week after week, while Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel gather dust on the sideline. And it's not just about playing time. It's about the message it sends. The Browns are telling everyone, including their young talent, we don't trust you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that's where things start getting messy. Because Shedeur isn't just any third-string QB. He's the son of Deion Sanders, and that comes with weight. Public weight. Media weight. Strategic weight. The kind of weight that turns a quiet depth chart decision into a full-blown spectacle. And Deion? He's not going to sit around and let his son be minimized. Reports are already swirling that he's preparing to push back, possibly publicly, possibly behind closed doors. And either way, That's going to bring even more pressure onto Stefanski and the Browns organization. But here's the problem. This pressure didn't come out of nowhere. Cleveland created it by refusing to make a clear decision, by prioritizing stability, even when that stability looks like washed-up mediocrity, by pretending that the third-string spot is exactly where Shedeur belongs, despite his public declarations that he's ready to lead. And this is where the Browns' long history of quarterback dysfunction starts to haunt them again. This team has never been able to develop a young quarterback without tripping over its own processes. From Johnny Manziel to Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Kaiser and beyond, it's always the same story. Promise, confusion, controversy, collapse. And here we are again, except this time, the stakes are bigger. Because Shedeur's not just waiting quietly. He's challenging the system. He's vocal. He's confident. He's applying pressure in the one place NFL teams hate to be pressured. Publicly. That's what makes this different. And Stefanski's inability or refusal to meet that pressure head-on has only made things worse. You can't keep brushing this off as a development timeline, when other rookie quarterbacks across the league are getting reps, getting real coaching, and, most importantly, getting opportunities. Meanwhile, Shedeur's stuck behind Joe Flacco, a quarterback whose best days are a distant memory, and Dillon Gabriel, who's been all but erased from the team's public narrative. If this is development, then what does neglect look like? And let's talk about the locker room. Because you can bet players see what's happening. Quarterbacks are the heartbeat of a team. When one is being ignored, not because of performance, but because of optics, it sends a message. It tells the team, playing time isn't earned, it's assigned. And when that message sets in, morale drops, trust erodes, leaders get questioned. That's the hidden cost here. It's not just about who's under center. It's about whether players believe in the process, whether fans trust the decisions being made, whether young talent feels like there's actually a path forward in the organization. Right now, that path is blocked. And it's not just Shedeur Sanders who's feeling it. Dillon Gabriel is also being ignored. No reps, no visibility, no development in sight. This isn't a quarterback competition. It's a lockdown. So while other franchises take risks, give their rookies a shot, and embrace change, the Browns are doing what they've always done, retreating into fear. Because let's be honest, that's what this is. Kevin Stefanski is afraid to make a bold move. He's afraid of what might happen if Shedeur plays and doesn't deliver. Or worse, if he does. Because then, the pressure becomes permanent. The narrative shifts. The fans demand more. The spotlight intensifies. So instead, he hides behind safe choices. Veterans, experience, development. All of it designed to delay the inevitable. But here's the thing about pressure. It doesn't just go away. It builds. And right now, that pressure is coming from every direction. Fans, media, analysts, even other NFL teams reportedly sniffing around the situation, seeing if there's a crack big enough to make a trade possible. Because while Cleveland stalls, the rest of the league sees opportunity. They see a young quarterback who's being buried. They see the Sanders name and the potential that comes with it. They see an organization that might be just dysfunctional enough to let him walk. And if that happens, if Shedeur ends up lighting it up in a different jersey, you already know how the story goes. The Browns will be left making another statement, another apology, another press conference about lessons learned. It's the cycle Cleveland can't seem to break. But this time, it doesn't have to go that way. There's still time to pivot. Still time for Stefanski to stop dodging and start leading. Still time for the Browns to actually develop their young quarterbacks instead of just saying they will. Start small. A series. A drive. A rotation. Something. Because if they don't act soon, the story will write itself. And the next chapter? It'll be about how the Browns once again lost a talented quarterback, not because he failed, but because they never gave him the chance to try. And this time, when that chapter gets written, the last name on the cover won't just be Sanders. It'll be Cleveland. So what do you think? Has Stefanski lost control of the narrative? Or is Shedeur being too aggressive too soon? Is Cleveland playing it safe or just playing scared? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild, unraveling NFL drama. Because if there's one thing the Browns are consistent at, it's giving us chaos to talk about. And something tells us this saga is far from over. This isn't sustainable. Not the quarterback situation. Not the PR strategy. Not the spin. Not the silence. Kevin Stefanski can keep hiding behind vague post-game cliches and coach speak, but at this point, every time he dodges a question about Shedeur Sanders, it just confirms what everyone already suspects. The Browns have no plan. At least not one that includes actual risk, innovation, or the future. What they do have is a tired formula. Ride with the veteran, ignore the rookie, hope for the best, then hit reset when everything inevitably collapses. And Shedeur? He's just the latest victim in the Browns' long-standing quarterback purgatory. Except this time, the stakes are even higher. This isn't some anonymous third-rounder fading quietly into irrelevance. This is Shedeur Sanders, a player who came into the league with a spotlight already locked on him. Thanks to talent, confidence, and yes, a last name that commands attention. And Cleveland is wasting all of it. Now let's be real. The situation didn't become a controversy overnight. It built slowly. First came the vague answers from Stefanski. Then came Shedeur's not-so-subtle public comments about being ready to start. Add Joe Flacco's mediocre performances on top of that, and it was only a matter of time before the whole thing caught fire. Now we're here, full meltdown mode. The Browns are simultaneously clinging to a 38-year-old quarterback who clearly isn't the long-term answer, while keeping two young quarterbacks completely frozen out. Dillon Gabriel is essentially a ghost at this point, and Shedeur Sanders, despite being more outspoken, more confident, and more marketable than most rookies, is being treated like a distraction instead of a potential asset. It's the definition of dysfunction. And Browns fans have seen this movie before. Remember when Baker Mayfield came in and gave the city a glimmer of hope? The energy, the promise, the sense that maybe this team had finally found its guy? How did that end? Then there was Johnny Manziel, a totally different case, but the same core problem. The organization didn't know what to do with him. The same lack of structure. The same leadership paralysis. The same desperate need to appear in control, while everything unraveled anyway. The Browns don't develop quarterbacks. They chew them up, toss them aside, and then wonder why they're always starting over. And now, instead of learning from the past, they're repeating it. But here's the plot twist. This time, Deion Sanders is involved. And that changes everything. Because unlike other parents of NFL players, Deion isn't staying behind the curtain. He is the curtain. He is the show. And if the Browns keep acting like Shedeur is just some low-priority rookie, it's only a matter of time before Deion goes public in a way that forces Cleveland into a corner. Let's not underestimate what that means. We've seen what happens when Deion Sanders decides to engage. It's not a subtle tweet or a whispered quote to a friendly reporter. It's an all-out media blitz. It's ESPN, FS1, Instagram Lives, viral soundbites, player interviews, and fan support, all snowballing into an avalanche of pressure. That's the bomb Cleveland is sitting on right now. And if they think this will all just blow over because Flacco can keep the team serviceable for a few more weeks, they're dead wrong. Because the truth is, this isn't even about whether Shedeur Sanders is ready to start tomorrow. It's about the fact that no one in the organization has shown the courage to find out. That's the part that's killing fans. That's the part that's driving the media frenzy. That's the part that's making Shedeur look like the only person in the room willing to say, "Why not me?" It's not entitlement. It's ambition. And in a franchise defined by hesitation, that ambition feels threatening. So they bury it. And while they bury it, other teams are paying attention. Other coaches are watching the tape. Other GMs are taking notes. And somewhere, probably more than one somewhere, there are serious conversations happening about what it would take to pry Shedeur Sanders away from Cleveland and give him a fresh start. And if that trade ever happens, let's just say the Browns better hope he doesn't thrive. Because if Shedeur walks and lights it up somewhere else, the blowback will be brutal. And Stefanski, the front office, ownership, they'll have to sit there and answer the same question for years. Why didn't you even try? Because right now, there's no indication that a plan is in place. No evidence that Shedeur is even being groomed for anything meaningful. He's just there, watching, waiting, getting older, losing reps, and watching his window shrink while the team pretends like it's all part of some grand design. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel is essentially a footnote. His complete erasure from any QB conversation only adds to the mess. If you're a young quarterback in Cleveland right now, the message is clear. Don't speak out, don't expect opportunities. And don't take it personally if the guy in front of you is out there playing like at a retirement tour. And Browns fans, who've seen this cycle too many times to count, are losing patience. Because they know what this is. It's the same conservative short-term decision-making that's plagued the organization for decades. The same reluctance to take chances. The same desperate clinging to veteran presence, even when it means suffocating progress. Shedeur Sanders might not be a sure thing, but right now, Cleveland is acting like he's not even an option. That's not development. That's mismanagement. And if they think the fans are going to keep accepting this pattern, they're in for a rude awakening. People are already talking. Local media, national analysts, even rival teams, they see what's happening. They know this isn't about performance anymore. It's about fear. Fear of change. Fear of controversy. Fear of being wrong. But the real mistake isn't putting Shedeur in and watching him struggle. It's never giving him the chance at all. That's what defines a bad franchise. The unwillingness to gamble. The paralysis. The illusion of control. The fear of scrutiny. The obsession with not making waves, even when the ship is already sinking. And that's exactly where Cleveland is right now. Kevin Stefanski can try to downplay it all he wants. He can call it noise. He can stick to his script about development and learning and trust. But eventually, the pressure will win. Because the Browns have backed themselves into a lose-lose situation. Option 1. Stick with Flacco, keep Shedeur buried. And watch the fans check out, the media explode, and the Sanders family go nuclear. Option 2. Give Shedeur a shot, and admit that you misread the situation for weeks, possibly months. Either way, the time for pretending is over. The storm is already here. The only question left is who survives it. Here's the most infuriating part of this entire situation. The Browns could have owned this narrative. They had every opportunity to take control, set expectations, and at least pretend there was a plan in place for Shedeur Sanders. They didn't have to name him the starter. They didn't even have to promote him to QB2. All they had to do was acknowledge the reality everyone else is already living in, that he exists, that he's ready, that he deserves an honest evaluation. Instead, silence, shrugs. He's progressing. Progressing toward what? Irrelevance? Because every week they keep him sidelined, the tension gets worse. Every week Joe Flacco continues to jog onto the field in slow motion. The questions get louder. And every time Kevin Stefanski leans into another safe, scripted line about veteran leadership, it sounds less like strategy and more like fear. Let's call it what it is. This isn't just about protecting Flacco. It's about protecting themselves. The front office. The coaching staff. The status quo. If Shedeur gets his shot and plays well, they'll have to answer for why they waited so long. If he plays poorly, they'll be blamed for putting him in too soon. So what do they do instead? They do nothing. But here's the catch. Doing nothing is a decision. And it's one that's aging like milk. And while they're stuck in limbo, Shedeur isn't staying quiet. He's said he's ready. He's not hiding. He's not towing the company line. And whether you love him or think he's being too bold, you can't deny the obvious. He wants to compete. He wants the pressure. He wants the smoke. And he's not wrong for that. Isn't that what teams say they want in a quarterback? But apparently, not when it threatens the pecking order. Not when it forces tough questions. Not when it means actually making a decision that matters. And let's not pretend this isn't about who Shedeur is. If he was just another late-round rookie without a last name that made headlines, maybe the Browns would be more willing to take a look. But with Shedeur comes Deion, and with Deion comes the spotlight. And Cleveland? They are terrified of that spotlight. But that spotlight's already here. Everyone's watching. Everyone's waiting. And if the Browns think they can just ride this out quietly, that the fan base will just forget, that Deion will back off, that Shedeur will get tired of pushing, then they clearly don't understand who they're dealing with. Deion Sanders doesn't do quiet. He doesn't back off. And most importantly, he doesn't forget. So when the time comes, and it will come, when he decides to take this fight public, Cleveland will be blindsided. Not because they weren't warned, but because they didn't take the warning seriously. And by the way, this doesn't end with Shedeur staying quiet and waiting 3 years behind a depth chart that's allergic to development. If things don't change soon, he's gone. Period. A trade. A request. A headline. It's coming. And when that happens, the Browns will once again become the cautionary tale. The team that had the player, but didn't have the vision. The team that chose comfort over curiosity. And the worst part? They'll act shocked. We didn't see this coming. We were working with him behind the scenes. We wish him well. Save it. Because this is what happens every single time the Browns get handed a potential game changer. They second-guess it to death. They did it with Baker. They did it with Kaiser. They did it with Colt McCoy. They did it with Manziel, with Hoyer, with RG3. The names change. The mistakes don't. And now it's Shedeur. Different name. Same nightmare. Only this time, they're not just alienating a player. They're risking a spectacle. Because when Shedeur Sanders walks, he won't go quietly. He'll go viral. And when he plays well somewhere else, Cleveland will feel it every Sunday. So let's stop pretending this is about timing or patience or development. This is about fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being embarrassed. Fear of losing control. But here's the twist. They're already losing it. The longer they keep him buried, the more out of touch they look. And the fans? They're not blind. They know dysfunction when they see it. And right now, this QB room looks like a rerun. So what now? Either the Browns step up and give Shedeur the shot he's earned, or they brace for impact, because the media wave, the trade rumors, the Deion drama, the fan outrage, it's already on the way. They can keep pretending they're in control. But if this saga has proven anything, it's this. They aren't. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Stefanski give Shedeur a shot? Or is this just another overblown Browns disaster in the making? Hit that subscribe button for more NFL meltdowns, franchise chaos, and quarterback sagas that refuse to die. Because in Cleveland, the QB drama never ends.